Welcome back viewers, ladies, gentlemen, non-binaries and anyone with ears or other sound detection organs. Hope you enjoy. We are continuing with Going Native, written by Uncle Sealing. Going Native, Chapter 31. Wake up, you dumb asshole. Stace let out a quiet groan as the slap hit him, managing to crack one eye open just enough to be bombarded with bright artificial light. Goddess, Ieng, calm down. Shit, I think you broke his nose. Everything hurt. His skin felt like it was ablaze and his right arm was an inferno of pain. All he could taste and smell was the tang of blood. Stace slid his eye open a little farther and saw several faces looking down at him. A young man, a human, and Stace felt odd having to clarify that in his mind, with shaggy brown hair and pale blue eyes, politely asked, "Are you okay?" "I don't think so." "That's all right. We're taking you to a hospital." Stace's head was fuzzy. He couldn't focus. "Are we leaving?" "Yes, Stace, we're leaving." He managed to slide his eye over and saw Ella leaning over him, her hair hanging down around her face. Her eyes were wet. Why was she crying? The cabin? The young man again? "I put out the fire and blocked the flue. Ella packed some of your things. It's all taken care of." "Thank you." Stace's eye closed. He didn't want it to, but he didn't seem to have a choice. A hand squeezed his shoulder. "Just get some sleep, all right." Aside from the obvious muscle atrophy, lots of soft tissue damage from the cold, which is why his skin looks like that. Cardiac and circulatory system damage, likely due to past infection. A little bit of brain damage from the hypothermia, which we are repairing right now. Brain damage? Ella didn't even try to keep the dread and concern out of her voice. With Stace's body mangled, his mind was pretty much all he had left. Nothing to worry about. We've got him on a drug regimen that will take care of it. In the meantime, the main symptom you'll see is some dysnomia. Depending on how well he takes to the treatment, he might have occasional spells of it long term. Dysnomia. Trouble recalling the correct word when he's talking? He can learn to work around it. Let's see what else. His right eye is pretty mangled, the cold again. Probably had it pressed against something while he was laying in the snow. His nose is broken, which we've straightened up but will take some time to heal. His right shoulder is pretty much destroyed. It looks like he had a majority tear of his pectoral that didn't heal properly, then he more recently tore the rest of it. Cartilage and nerves torn to shreds too. We can fix most of it with surgery, but honestly he'll probably get more use with a prosthetic. That arm is just never going to work right. He's got arthritis pretty much everywhere, both of his knees have torn cartilage. A precancerous mass on his liver, which we're going ahead and treating now. Missing half of one ear. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, some butcher cut off one of his feet and half of a leg. Ella looked down in shame, her face flushed, but didn't say anything as the doctor, a fairly rotund and middle-aged Shilvati woman, pulled up scans of Stace's legs on her pad to show it off. Seriously, whoever did these surgeries to the poor guy is a monster. No nerve ligature, tons of unnecessary scar formation, the ends of the bones weren't filed smooth so they are digging into the muscle. Look at this. The doctor shoved the pad in Ella's face, showing a spidery network of red lines overlaid on Stace's leg, turning into a bolus of twisted and tangled lines near the beginning of the stump. See those crazy nerve interactions? He has been in constant pain from the moment this was done. If I could find the surgeon who did this, I would beat the shit out of them. From the bed, Stace let out a laugh. Do not worry, Ella. You did your best. Wait, you did this. The doctor turned her gaze to Ella, who raised her hands in an attempt to placate the furious woman. I had to. We were out of options. For a moment it looked like the doctor was actually going to punch Ella until Stace intervened. Do not be mad at her. I was dying from bad blood. Ella saved my life. Did a good job. It was my idea. Bad blood. The doctor at least calmed down a little bit. We were trapped in the mountains, he had frostbite and didn't tell us. It got badly infected and he was going to die. We had to amputate. No real medical supplies and I'm a Marine, not a doctor. The doctor looked at Stace, who smiled and nodded. In that case, I suppose I can understand. I'm still mad, though. Does he do that a lot? Get hurt and not tell you? Yeah, taking care of him is sort of a full-time job. Stace let out a little harumph at that. I'll make a note of it. The doctor dutifully began scrawling runes onto her omnipod. I am right here. You can talk to me. Is rude not to. The doctor leaned over to a panel next to the bed and pushed a button. No, you're not here. You're asleep. Good night, Mr. Grant. You or. Stace promptly drifted off into a stupor, which the doctor took as her cue to leave. Ella let out a sigh and plopped down on the chair next to the bed. She had elected to stay here at the hospital while everyone else continued on to wherever Marin and those strange humans were living. No way would she let Stace out of her sight, especially after he had been so stupid as to crawl out into the snow with no hat or gloves and fire a rifle at a passing shuttle. Ian was with Marin, which was good. The little guy was so upset they'd actually had to pull him off of Stace once the human was in the shuttle. A little bit of time to cool off wouldn't be bad. Plus they had a lot to catch up on. Now that she was back in the real world and Stace was stable, it was time to check in with her superiors. Of course, she had never been to Denver and had no idea where to go. They had landed on the roof of the medical facility in the purple zone, delivered Stace and Ella, and taken off again. Apparently Marin and the humans had some work they had to get done in exchange for borrowing the shuttle and it couldn't wait. Step 1 was getting a hold of an omnipod. This turned out to be harder than Ella had expected. First she had to catch a nurse who was willing to stop and chat long enough to tell her how she could get to a store that might have cheap used omnipods for sale. And also some clothing that wasn't made from a dead caribou. The second-hand store on the base had an older model that would work for now and she could give it to Stace once he was more situated. It was pretty basic, which she thought would be a good way to ease Stace into modern technology. She also found a duffel bag she could use, some lightweight clothing in her size, a jacket that wasn't made of skin, and a few odds and ends including a serviceable pocket knife. It was going perfectly until she went to pay. This says your credit is invalid. The clerk looked slightly apologetic but mostly bored. How can it be invalid? It's my thumbprint. There's plenty of money in the account. Says here it's not valid, not that you're out of money. Can't take it. Look. The screen said, very plainly, invalid credit. Not helpful at all. Shit. Can I borrow your omnipod? I need to make a call. The clerk looked at her, a disheveled woman wearing homemade leather clothing who obviously had nothing to her name, and made a decision. I would rather not. Well, can I use the stores? Just for a minute. I just need to call the pay office and they can sort all this out. The woman behind the counter stared unblinking for a good 30 seconds before she finally nodded. After that was a half hour on the phone with an increasingly irate clerk standing next to her, working her way through the phone tree trying to get a hold of somebody who could get in touch with someone who could help. Once she finally did, Ella managed to figure out the problem. She was dead. Of course she couldn't spend any money, her accounts had been frozen and the contents were in the process of being transferred to her family. She'd have to go to a clerk on base to get it cleared up, which would be easy if it wasn't for the fact that she had no idea where that was. At least the woman behind the counter had found the turn of events funny enough that she agreed to put Ella's purchases to the side and give her directions to the clerk's office.
Good news. I'm not dead. I'm sending this from Marin's pad while we fly back to civilization, so I'm going to keep it brief. Short version is that I wasn't on the space station when whatever happened, I was on a shuttle. We ended up crashing in the middle of nowhere in a very cold part of the planet. There was a human living there and he rescued me along with a marine who survived the crash, but we were stuck out there with no way to contact anybody. Marin and her friends found us maybe an hour ago. Once everything is settled I plan to come visit. Marin and I'll bring Illyra, the marine, and Stace, the human, along without them I'd be dead right now. I love you all and thank you so much for your support. Marin wouldn't have been able to find us without your help. Ian.
Ian sighed and leaned tighter into Marion. It was familiar and comfortable, her arm wrapped around him protectively. Across the shuttle, the two humans were looking at him. They were both small, one with dark skin and a puff of yellow hair over thick glasses and the other with skin like paper, dark hair, and pale blue eyes. Hi. I'm Sammy. Ian. I know, we've heard a lot about you from Marion. It's nice to meet you. These two humans have been helping me find you. It has been a little crazy. Marion ruffled his hair and Ian let out another sigh. You're telling me. I'm Samuel. The other human nodded at Ian. That other one, Stace, he was in pretty rough shape. Looks like you guys found him at the perfect time. Ian shook his head. Other way around. He was in perfect health when he found us. Pulled me and Illyra out of a burning shuttle wreck. He took a moment to think about it. He saved my life on at least 3 occasions I can think of just off the top of my head. Crawling out into the snow without proper winter clothing and shooting at a shuttle was just the latest in a long line of Stace hurting himself doing stupid shit to keep us alive. I mean, look at me. Aside from needing a haircut and a shower, I'm in perfect health. Not even a scratch. All because that idiot tried to martyr himself at every possible opportunity. Samuel grinned. So that's why you started beating the snot out of him after we got him into the shuttle. Ian flushed and lowered his eyes, ashamed. I was just so mad. We finally got everything perfect with the 3 of us and he had to go and try to die again. He felt the arm around him tighten and fingers began stroking through his hair. He must really mean a lot to you, Sammy remarked quietly. He does. Illyra and I promised him that we were going to take care of him. Now I don't know what's going to happen to our idiot human. Well, he'll just have to move in with the 4 of us. There's plenty of room. Sammy grinned, their green eyes huge and sparkling. 4 of you? Ian looked at the 2 humans, then tilted his head to look at Marion. Yeah, Samuel chimed in. You, Marion, me, and Sam. He pointed to each of them in turn. Marion moved in with us while we were searching for you, since our place is kind of really far from her base. It's your home now too. You're not living on the base. Marion shook her head. No, I'm quitting the military. It's a long story. It was a long story, lasting past the landing of the shuttle, the arrival at the observatory, which required its own explanation, and finally ended with the 4 of them sitting around the kitchen table and drinking hot cocoa. So, wait, the 3 of you got together while looking for me. Ian was shocked. I know we both said we should fool around, have fun, and meet new people while we were apart, but I always figured you were too much of a homebody to actually do it. Marion nodded sheepishly. That interior bitch told us you were dead and, well, we just sort of clicked. We work well together. Plus your wife is hot, Sammy added with a grin. I couldn't really fault them for that. And that whole time you were getting it on with that Ella, I'm sure. Marin added. I could tell. Is she wife material? Face flushing from lilac to a dark blue, Ian nodded. Don't forget Stace. Everyone turned to look at Samuel. It's obvious you love him. Is he husband material? Ian felt like his face was about to catch fire, but he mustered up enough courage to nod again. He was expecting some kind of recrimination, but instead Samuel just sighed. We're going to need a bigger bed, aren't we? By the time Ella made it back to the hospital, it was long past visiting hours. Still, she had nowhere else to go and needed to check on Stace. The nurse at the desk, a short and stout older woman with a badge that read JEOE, was watching her oddly, which Ella attributed to the fact that she was still wearing handmade leather clothes. Hi, I'm here to visit Eustace Grant, room 117. I know it's past visiting hours but... Oh, you don't have to worry about that, come on and follow me. The woman led Ella into the labyrinth of hallways, past room 117 without stopping, and brought her to another room a few doors down. We decided to move him here. It's closer to the nurse's station so it's easier to check in on him. That was slightly alarming. Is he okay? Oh yes, he's fine. A real sweetheart. Polite to everyone and seems to want to talk as best he can. Tell me, is it true you found him in the woods? Sort of. It's a long story. Well, it's a good thing you found him when you did. We're all rooting for the little guy. The nurse gave Ella a friendly smile and opened the door for her, then left. It was an odd conversation to add to the pile of other odd occurrences that seemed to have filled her life. Stace was laying in the middle of the bed, looking tiny in furniture made to hold a Shilvati female. The sheets fell across his legs, showing clearly the missing leg and foot. As she traced her eyes up his body, she noticed how frail and thin he looked under the blankets. His right arm was wrapped up in a sling holding it tight against his chest, the medical gown bunched up around it. His right eye was covered in a bright blue medical patch and his skin was red and splotchy. Ella was surprised, and, if she wanted to be honest to herself, a little jealous, to find that someone had cleaned Stace up and even given him a haircut. With a short beard and his shaggy mess of hair down to crew cut, he almost looked like a different person. There seemed to be nothing left of the man who had pulled her out of a burning wreck and saved their lives time after time. Stace's one good eye opened and he smiled. Ella. It is good to see you are back. His shill was halting, stumbling over his words. I hope you are not stuck here because of me. No, Stace, I'm not stuck here. I want to be here with you. I just had to go buy some things and let everyone know I was still alive. The human gave a tiny nod. Now you have to work. I have some leave accrued, I'm sure. I'll be here until you're out of the hospital. Ian and I told you we weren't going to leave you alone, remember? Stace nodded. You did. Ella thought about it. I am going to need to find a hotel or a barracks, though. I need somewhere to stay while you get better. You can stay here. No, Stace. This is a hospital, not a hotel. They won't let me stay here. They will. I asked. I am too hurt. Can't. Make sense. You can stay here and help me. Really? Ella was impressed. Yes. Chair is a bed. Stace patted the bed next to him. But here is space too. With a smile, his eyes slowly drifted shut and soon he was breathing the calm, deep rhythms of sleep. First things first, Ella needed a shower. The water was hot and plentiful, the soap wasn't homemade, and after she was done her clothes were clean and unnaturally soft in the way that only synthetic fabric can be. It was getting late, so she decided to send her CO a message through the Omnipod instead of calling the woman and risking waking her up.
Commander. This is Elora Helium. I'm still alive. Our shuttle went down in the wilderness. The rest of the pod didn't make it. Just me and a civilian passenger. Right now I am at the medical center on the base in Denver. There is a human who pulled us from the wreckage and was badly hurt, keeping us alive. I am keeping an eye on him here at the hospital. Please advise as to my next orders.
The reply was unexpectedly quick. Elora had a mental image of her commander sitting at a desk, working on a mountain of paperwork. Helium the human hater was rescued by one. Glad to hear you're alive. Take care of that human, maybe his dick will finally loosen you up a little. Check that, she was at the bar again. Sorry to hear about the rest of your pod. They were good girls. I suppose you won't be able to report tomorrow since you're like 1,000,000,000 kilometers from base. I will be in Denver in a couple days to debrief you. Get the dick. Well, that took care of that. One more message and she could call it a night. Marion, please tell Ian that Stace is settled. He's not in good shape, but they are taking care of him and he is out of danger. I'm staying here in the hospital with him for the next few days. She attached a picture of the sleeping Stace and received a message from a different code after a few moments. He's so cute with his hair like that. Samuel gave me an old pad he had lying around, so I have something to use for now. Please keep me updated. Ian. Finally, Elora stood and stretched, then flipped the light off and carefully slipped into the bed next to Stace. She was asleep in moments. End of chapter. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss any episode and do all the other YouTube stuff. Visit and support the author, and I'll see you next time. If you didn't enjoy, comment on what I can do better. And as usual, have a wonderful day.